Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the State Representative District 95 and State Senator District 48 Forum conducted by the Greater Burlington Partnerships Government Relations Committee. I'm Brandon North, a member of this committee, and I will be your moderator this evening, actually. Tim Lofgren is our timekeeper. There are 4 candidates with us this evening. Taylor Collins and Jeff Poulter contending to the District 95 seat. Mark Lofgren and John Dabeet contending for the State Senator, District 48. We want to express our gratitude to each of these public servants for their interest in representing our community in Des Moines. This forum will consist of rounds of questions asked by the moderator, to which candidates will have varying times to respond. The order of response will be rotated so that each candidate has the opportunity to be the first to answer a question. Candidates have not seen the questions in advance. I do ask that the candidates observe the signals from our timekeeper and stop your response when time has expired in fairness to the other candidates. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 2-minute opening statement highlighting their reason for running for office. At the conclusion of the forum, each candidate will also have a 2-minute closing statement. We will begin with the opening statements. Taylor's all the way to my right. We will start with him.
Sounds good. Well, thank you once again for the partnership for hosting these candidate forums. I always enjoy coming here during the legislative session and giving an opportunity to update the members what's going on in Des Moines and update constituents what's going on in Des Moines and what we're working on. I'm Representative Taylor Collins, and over the last 2 years, I've had the honor of representing Iowa House District 95. It's been the greatest honor of my life, and I greatly appreciate the chance to serve the people of Southeast Iowa and Des Moines. I'm running for re-election because the last thing we need is to bring the same kind of chaos and dysfunction that we see in Washington, D.C. to Iowa. In Iowa, we have led with common sense, and if re-elected, I will continue to do exactly that. I look forward to participating in the questions this evening.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I would also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting our conversation this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I am Mark Lofgren. I am the current State Senator for District 48. I'd first like you to know that I am a Christian and a conservative Republican. It is my faith in God and my love of my community, my state, and my country that motivates me to seek re-election as your state senator. Having lived in Iowa all of my life, there's no other place I'd want to call home. So I'm committed to helping make this state the best state to live, work, and raise a family in. A lifelong resident of Iowa, I have attended public schools and married to a 33-year veteran of public education, raised a family of 4 who also attended public schools, owned 2 businesses, served 2 terms in the Iowa House and 2 terms in the Iowa Senate. I definitely have made a long-term investment in our state and will continue to do so.
Thank you, Mark. John?
Thank you. I would like to start by also thanking the Greater Burlington Partnership for hosting this event. My name is John Dabeet. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a full professor at Eastern Iowa Community College. I teach economics. That's my field. And also, I'm the current president of Muscatine School Board. I'm married. My wife is Abir, and I have twin boys, 15 years old, Nabil and Anton. I'm also a Greek Orthodox Christian, so I don't know if you're familiar with that faith, which is the traditional Orthodox or Christian faith that started over 2,000 years ago. Beside that, obviously, I'm extremely involved with citizen diplomacy. I represent Iowa on Sister City International Board of Directors in Washington, D.C. And for that reason, I received the honor and the recognition from our our former Governor Branstad for my work in citizen diplomacy in 2017. Why I decided to run is very simple. As a long life educator, I saw the attack on public education by the current House and Senate and our governor on public education the past 2 years, from the voucher to moving or having some attacks on AEA, and I understand the importance of the AEA in public education, to banning books, to also the attack on women's reproductive rights. So those are the reasons collectively that made me, again, decide to run.
Thank you, John. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Poulter. I live north of Middletown, Iowa. I'm a husband, father, grandfather. I spent just shy of 38 years with UPS, and I got my start in West Burlington while I was attending SCC. So I was loading trailers at night, going to class during the day. Actually had no intention of spending the length of time I did with UPS, but it was a great career, and my position in Burlington helped prepare me for a long career with UPS. I was a loader, I was a driver. As a driver, I delivered a lot of the communities that make up District 95. I did a time in Mason City, Iowa, also Des Moines, Iowa, at different levels. So I went from a union steward and a driver into management because I thought I could have an impact. So went from Burlington to Mason City, then on to Des Moines, did assignments in Atlanta, Georgia, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Birmingham, Alabama. I finished my career with the Corporate Talent Development Group with UPS and had oversight of the Midwest region. So kind of seen the writing on the wall that I was going to be moved to Chicago. So I proposed to them, I'll move back to this area. I'm going to retire in 4 years. And they said yes. So I finished my career at UPS. The last 10 years, I've been a volunteer at the Capitol Theater, a big part of our downtown community here in Burlington. For 10 years, I've been the live event director. I'm currently serving my third term on the board. And why? One thing, I guess when I voted in 2022, my wife and I were standing there, and I got realigned during redistricting.
Jeff, that would be time.
Time up?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll go with our round of questioning. Taylor, we'll start with you again. Each question, you four are going to have 90 seconds each. Growing the next generation of workforce is a key component to success for Greater Burlington. How will you support the expansion and continued updates of career and technical education and keep businesses and workers competitive?
That's a great question. You know, it's been a priority for us the last few years. It's no secret when talking to businesses that one of the greatest barriers we have to further growth in the Southeast Iowa region is our workforce. The jobs are out there. We simply need the bodies to fill them. You know, one of the things I think we're proudest of the last couple of years in the legislature was establishing the Workforce Grant and Incentive Program. And it's really piggybacked off of the career and technical education program, and we've offered at the community college level. It actually offers scholarships specifically to those high-demand fields, such as teaching, nursing, all the high-demand fields the workforce, the Iowa Workforce and Development Agency has identified. So that continues to be a priority. You know, I think our community colleges have done a great job in partnering with our community here locally, but I think we'd have more reform to do at the region level to make sure that we really have our education institutions working hand-in-hand with our business community. But those are just a few things we've been working on, and I think it's something we'll be working on from years to come here, especially as we deal with the shortage of healthcare workers. We really have to look at how we can continue to expand the number of residencies in the state of Iowa, and that's something I'll be working on this coming session.
I spoke at the ribbon cutting at the Muscatine Career Advancement Center. They have auto, they have nursing, they have construction, they have law enforcement, and really they have the high demand areas. And there's a last dollar scholarship that the governor that got going. That was kind of through Future Ready Iowa. And so that helped kind of get that program going, knowing that it would be able to be used with those type of things. I might mention, too, that and I'm the chair of the Economic Development Budget Sub, and Debbie Durham, who's the director of Iowa Finance Authority and the Iowa Economic Development Authority, she came to our committee. She talked about workforce, but she also talked about the number one thing that draws somebody to Iowa is affordability. So we need to make sure we keep housing affordable. We're doing a good job with our taxes and everything to keep it competitive. Also safety. You see I have back the blue on right here. The second thing is safety. People want to be comfortable and feel like it's safe. And then also culture, trails, and entertainment is something that's really very important too that she talked about. So those are the kind of things through surveys they've done that they've talked about how to draw people. And right now we basically only have 70% as many workers as jobs to be filled. Now, it's, I think it's like about 80% is what it is nationally, but like I said, Iowa's at 70%. They're doing better than some surrounding states, but they are, but like I said, that's kind of a challenge for every single state, but we're still working on that.
Well, thank you. Great question for sure. For me, as an economist, I'm going to definitely answer this from that point of view. For me, as an economist, I value one of the most important and valuable resource that we have, which is the human being, the people of Iowa. Those are the most important valued ones. And in order for us to invest, if we want to invest in the state of Iowa, we need to invest in our future leaders, which is our students. Let me just share with you some statistics here about Iowa. In the past 5 years, our gross state product, which we refer to as GSP, grew only by 1.8%. This is unacceptable. That put us as number 30 in state growth rank. If we look at the population growth in the state of Iowa, which, as I said again, this is the most important resource for all of us if we want to move Iowa ahead and move it forward. It grew by 0.3%. That put us on the 32nd state in terms of growth rank. So if we want to really move Iowa forward, we need to concentrate on the most precious resource, which is the human resource.
Jeff?
And first, I got to thank Mark and Taylor, because as a retiree, this is one thing, I got to give you accolades. I kind of like not paying taxes on my pension, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But we've got to make it so young people stay in our communities. District 95 is gravel roads, small towns, rural schools, and where do these folks go? You know, I worked, as I retired, a friend of mine who's down, well, just on this hall here, with CBEZ, that went to work there, but she was the marketing manager for Manpower. And we have like 4 or 5 temp agencies in town. And those people just rotate from job to job. We have to have good paying jobs. You know, when I graduated in '77, J.I. Case, that was the golden egg. And the homes on the south side and the north side, they were kept up, and the homes looked nice. People took pride in them. And now it's scary. You know, you drive through our streets and a lot of our homes are falling apart. So we've got to work with organized labor. We've got to bring in jobs that aren't $10 and $12 an hour. You've got to find people, you got to have, benefits. Great job that the hospital's doing with SCC. They're building nursing jobs. They have the radiology. So a lot of positives there. So I think there's things we can do, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. This next question will start with you, Mark. Okay. Many households either have two wage earners or single parents working outside the home. Affordable housing for the workforce and quality childcare is a concern for them. What steps can the state take to address their concerns?
Well, I would say child care is so important. Actually, it's not a partisan type of an issue. We've had, the Democrats, Republicans, we've had meetings and stuff on child care for years. We've actually spent about $500 million in the last 5 years on child care. And then in August, we had basically the Iowa Child Care. It's a website that they can search out where they can go ahead and get a spot for their child. And then on housing, that's something I'm pretty sure I'm the only one through the Iowa Finance Authority that's got the housing award twice. And so I deal with Debbie Durham quite often. And so I've run a lot of bills. I ran the to increase the amount that veterans can get for credits and stuff for veterans. That really helps housing. But we do know, like I mentioned earlier, affordability is so important with housing. It used to be, obviously, getting a job was the number one thing that you wanted and needed, but if you don't have housing. And if you don't have housing to bring people in, that's a real problem. So we've actually, my gosh, back about 3 years ago, the governor, basically they spent $100 million because what the goal was, we need like 61,000 new housing units. And then it kind of dropped down with that, well, maybe we're in that range. We're probably at about 20-some thousand we still need. I'm still waiting for the number from them. So we realize housing is very important. We've done a lot of things on housing. Like I said, there's been symposiums and there's been all kinds of meetings, and we know how important it is.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I did mention, I reside and live in Muscatine, and I'm currently the school board president. And this is a major issue that we're dealing with in Muscatine area. And I'm sure your community is no different here in Burlington or any other community across the state of Iowa. We are in need right now in Muscatine, for example, of minimum 5,000 units. And this is an issue. Also, as a college professor, I deal with my students on a daily basis, and I hear from their stories every day. They have issues with that because one is they cannot survive on their own on one breadwinner individual in the house anymore. 2 or 3 or 4 people are working and they cannot still survive due to, again, the rejection to increase the minimum wage. In order for us to respect our human resource, we need to treat them in a way that they must be respected. And to be respected, that means we have to value them. We have to offer them what I call a brighter Iowa, an Iowa that promises each one of them of achieving their dreams. If we don't do that, the problem becomes more and bigger. And that's why we are talking about this issue as a problem right now, because we didn't deal with it many years ago.
Thank you, John. Jeff?
As a grandfather of 7, and only a couple in school, so, child care is so important. And then the safety. You're dropping your child, a little one, a toddler, off at somebody's home. And you want them to know they're going to have a good day, a safe day, and be well cared for. My daughter works out at the hospital at the child care center out there, first class, but there's a waiting list to get into that. And Burlington has more options than, say, Mediapolis, where Taylor lives, or Columbus Junction. So we got to look in District 95 at the little towns, and yet have the follow-up. As we've downsized government, which always sounds good, you got to have people checking. You have to have auditors going into those homes. What we don't want is a tragedy. So, as a grandfather, and I know we have a lot of little ones, and we want to keep our young people here. That will make Iowa a better place. But we have to have parties working together. I don't believe that one party can solve all these issues. And with the supermajority, there's not a lot of dialogue across the hall, across the aisle in Des Moines. And I feel like you have to have that to find the best solutions.
Taylor?
Well, I don't have to talk about what I would do. I can talk about exactly what we've already done. Every single year we've continued to expand the child care tax credit, but it's an issue we're going to have to continue to work on. I know Mediapolis, Jeff brought up Mediapolis. We have a child care center that'll be opening there soon in partnership with the school district. I'm glad Jeff also brought up the Kids Zone daycare center at the hospital. That was actually supported with a state grant. We're going to continue to look at ways we can continue to expand the number of child care slots, but there is no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to this issue. We have to look at it from a comprehensive standpoint because not every community is going to be able to sustain a massive child care center like the hospital. Sometimes it's going to be in-home, and so we have to be creative. When it comes to workforce housing, we've also continued to expand the workforce housing tax credit. It's been incredibly impactful, and we look at projects such as the Apollo School building here in town or the former Iowa Westland campus that is now being turned into affordable housing. We are not only continuing to expand the number of workforce housing units, but we're also taking dilapidated assets that would typically be blighted in the community, and turning them into affordable housing. So we put our money where our mouth is, and we've delivered on that issue, and we'll continue to work on it when we get back to Des Moines in January.
Thank you, Taylor. John, we'll start with you for this next question. Mental health is one of the top priorities identified by Chamber of Commerce members. Iowa's behavioral health service systems is changing again in 2025. What is the state doing to address this?
Well, thanks for asking this question, because this is one of the most important issues that we deal with. at school level, at the college level, and in general in our communities. One of the things that we have to think about is the state is not putting the appropriate resources in order to solve this problem and in order to help those who are suffering from some mental health issues. You know, we don't want to put a stigma on some people because they have some mental health issues. It's no different than someone who's diabetic, for example, or have a high blood pressure and something like that. But the current, as a matter of fact, legislators and our governor right now decided that they want to push everybody and put them in jail and use that as a solution instead of really dealing with the solution, which is coming up with a program that will help anyone who is suffering from mental health issues and problems. This is, I think, where we as Iowans need to be really frank about this issue and push that very, very clear and say, right now, it's not the prison that is what's important for us. Right now is finding ways to treat these people and bring them back to become more productive in our society.
Jeff?
You know, mental health is dangerous. I mean, we've seen a rampant amount of young people committing suicide. You know, we closed the hospital in Mount Pleasant, and supposedly we had, you know, the state had actions to make up for that. I think that was a failure. You know, we have law enforcement dealing with people that are having mental health issues, so they either end up in jail or in our area hospitals. So, you know, again, we have to take action and work together to find solutions to this. I think, you know, the state funding mental health professionals in our school is a step in the right direction, better than you know, the law that we passed recently to let our teachers carry weapons. You know, I would rather see us have mental health professionals in each and every school and we got to depend on our teachers. And then, you know, once somebody leaves school, when law enforcement has to come upon a situation, they got to have, you know, where they can get that person help. I know I stopped up in Muscatine at a center just off of the main drag down there, just walked in, a community action, and I was the first politician that ever walked in that door. And I'm just a candidate. But they help people in that community with mental health issues. So there's a long way to go in this issue.
Jeff? Taylor?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount we still have to do on this issue. I mean, we continue to see this crisis ramp up, and we have to be honest with ourselves about where this is starting. And I think a lot of times it starts very young, and we cannot continue to let kids have access to constant phone use. I think this has a lot to do with it, and the studies say so. We've done a tremendous amount to support mental health. We've continued to put a lot of money towards it. In fact, if you look at which money we've leveraged through Medicaid and those federal dollars, this last fiscal year we spent over $1 billion on mental health. It's a lot of money, but honestly, money isn't going to solve this issue totally. We have a major workforce shortage when it comes to our mental health professionals, and one of the things we did in the last couple of years is double the number of psychiatry residencies at the University of Iowa to make sure we have those trained professionals coming into our workforce to offer those services. We still have a lot more to do, though. This is an issue that I think we're seeing across the country, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. We're going to have to continue to put our money where our mouth is, but also be creative and work with our professionals and really understanding the needs of these individuals.
I agree with Taylor. We do have a lot more to do. I've spent a lot of time on healthcare issues, so I care about that as well, the behavioral health. But the new statewide behavioral health service system under the HHS, basically what they've done is they've merged 13 health and disability service regions and 19 substance abuse use providers network into a single system, and it's going to have 7 districts. So I think what they really know is that substance abuse and mental health kind of go together, and that's why they're doing that. What I've been hearing is most people that I've talked to have thought it was a good idea, and they're happy about it. And obviously anything we do, we're going to monitor. But anyway, it includes services to prevention, education, early intervention, treatment, recovery support, and crisis services related to mental health and addictive disorders. So like I said, it's really a work in progress right now, and I've been talking to a lot of people about it, and I'm sure that's probably going to be a high priority thing to kind of see how it's going so far.
Thank you, Mike. Jeff, we'll start with you for this next question. Tourism is an economic driver for Greater Burlington and the state of Iowa, averaging $5 billion annually for the state. How do you grow and sustain the tourism industry for both Greater Burlington and statewide?
Well, I mean, locally here, we have a great, just look out that window and look at that river. Fort Madison has done an awesome job of promoting that riverfront with their new marina. In this area, when we have people come down here from people I've met in other states, people from Des Moines, they love what's going on in downtown Burlington. We've got a vibrant downtown. But, we also, have to have people come to Columbus Junction and Wapello. It's important to have a strong Burlington. It's important to have a strong Muscatine and Mount Pleasant. But those are not a part of District 95. They're anchor cities, and we want strong anchor cities. So, as far as promoting tourism, we have a lot to offer. And I think it's just getting people here. It's marketing. Being on the board at the Capitol Theater, it's all about marketing to get people in the door. And it's no different with tourism. We've got a great river we can capitalize on and get people here. We have the boats that stop in, Viking cruise, and, people walk downtown. They love our city. So now it's, getting people to get in the car. If you go to Galena, you go to Dubuque, they've done a lot. And those would be the cities. Burlington needs to capitalize on that in this area. Thank you.
Taylor?
Well, I think most importantly, we have to make sure folks know about the tourism funding that's coming out of the state. I know not everything has to do with funding and grants, but we have a lot of important programs that I hope folks are aware of, and that's why it's so important to work with our chambers to make sure their members are aware of this. The Catalyst grant has been incredibly positive. Jeff mentioned that he volunteers on the board at the Capitol Theater. Mark and I and the other Republican legislators from Southeast Iowa actually secured about a $750,000 Catalyst grant for the Capitol Theater. There's also one the Mediapolis just secured a few years ago on the Main Street there, and in Wapello, Brett Schaefer, the mayor there, he'll be also receiving a Catalyst grant to upgrade that Main Street. So we're working incredibly hard to support our main streets, and that's why I'm supported by the National Federation of Independent Businesses as well, is because our main streets need supported, and over the last few years, the Republican legislature's done exactly that.
I'm the chair of the Economic Development Budget Sub, and so within there is tourism money and everything. And so we know how important it is. We actually have had presentations. Obviously, they've all come in. But also in cultural affairs goes a lot with that. We've realigned everything too. So some of that has gone over to the Economic Development Authority. But like I said, we do know how important it is. There's little things happening. Like in Muscatine, I know the Iowa Bicycle Coalition's wanting to do. There's like 3 different rides besides RAGBRAI. So it's a one day type of a ride. They're talking to Muscatine about doing that, and they're hoping that they're going to get big support from Burlington and the Quad Cities and everything. And I actually, tomorrow morning, I'm heading up to the Capitol, and some people from the Iowa Bicycle Coalition are meeting at the Capitol, talk a little bit, and then we're actually going on a 19-mile bike ride, which I haven't rode for a long time, so we'll see how that goes. So anyway, but so yeah, we're consistently talking about those things, and sometimes, like I said, just they'll call us, we'll talk, and we represent sometimes the area and kind of try to nudge people to try to do tourism here, that type of a thing. So it's important to, I think, all of us, all the legislators.
John?
Yeah, it's a great question again. I do believe that tourism can bring a lot of dollars to our state of Iowa. But we need to be creative, number one. And also we need to involve the youth, the new generation. We cannot make decisions on behalf of the new generations expecting them also to support such initiative, for example. I myself served on the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors from 2003 to 2010, 7 years. And part of my job is to do a lot or conduct a lot of economic assessment studies for the city of Muscatine and for the chamber. And I remember from 2003 to 2010 that we came up with some solution to this particular issue and other issues too. But also, which is very important also, in order to increase the tourism to Iowa, we need also to support what I call the Sister Cities program that can bring us delegation from other countries, and we get them to come here and enjoy Iowa and enjoy the hospitality of Iowa. But unfortunately, Sister Cities program and relationship with other countries got really attacked this year by some of the House members and the Senate members in Iowa. We need to encourage that in order to encourage tourism.
All right, thank you, John. Looks like we have time for one more question, then our closing statements. Taylor, we'll come back to you for this last one. Property taxes are a significant source of funding for essential services like schools, public safety, and quality of life amenities. They also place a burden on homeowners and businesses, especially in times of economic uncertainty. What specific reforms to the property tax system do you support or oppose, and how would your proposed approach ensure a fair balance between funding essential services and alleviating the tax burden on property owners in our communities?
Well, there's no doubt we have a property tax problem here in Iowa. You know, when I'm out knocking doors, that is the first thing I hear is the property tax burden. When you have retired individuals who cannot afford to live in their own home, who may not have made any capital improvements over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and they can't afford their property tax bill, that's when you know you have a problem. 2 years ago, we passed House File 718 that made some significant reforms. It provides specifically exemptions for our seniors and service members, giving them direct relief, but also ensure that as we see massive increases in assessments by, I might add, by the Biden administration because they drove rampant inflation, we have to control the level of revenue growth that is coming into the counties and cities. Yes, they fund important services, but at the end of the day, those services are paid for by the taxpayer. And so some specific reforms that I think are coming up, and it's an issue we're going to be looking at this next session, is specifically revenue caps. We already have a rollback on top of assessed value. That works, but that really only curbs the pain slowly. It does not stop it. We have to cap revenue growth to ensure that our local governments are living within their means, just like the state is. You know, this last session, we increased our funding, our overall budget by about 3.7%. That is a reasonable level that I think 2 to 3% that the homeowner can afford and that our local governments can afford as well. There's a lot more work we have to do on this issue.
I think we need to look at the levies again. And property taxes are basically, I've gone to thousands of doors within Senate District 48, and I would say that's probably the number one thing is property taxes. I think Taylor had mentioned the same thing. So, but in 2023, knowing that since 2017 until 2022, the total amount of property tax dollars collected from Iowans had increased more than 550% in that 45-year time frame. We succeeded in passing a property tax reform, which included the following. We increased the military service property tax exemption. We instituted a new 65-plus property tax exemption. We worked to restore property tax levy limits, instituted property tax changes that require cities, counties, and schools to contact property owners to provide them with basically an update on any changes to their bill. Again, I think what we did before was very nominal. I think it was a good starting point, but again, we do need to spend more time on it, and I think that everybody feels that way. I think, like I said, as I go to doors, that's one thing they want to talk about.
Yeah, I totally agree that property tax is an issue, is a problem, but for me, I want to look at what caused that problem, the reason behind it. The reason is very clear. The Iowa Senate and Iowa House, every year after year after year, they are cutting the education budget. You know, it's very simple. For example, community colleges. It used to be a third of the community college funding comes from property tax, third from the state, and third from the tuition. Now, let's look at how much money that we as community colleges are getting from the state. Obviously, if the state start reducing and cutting the funding for education, what happened? Someone else has to cover that. And you know who covers that? All of us, the property tax. So who's responsible for that? As I said, again, the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate, through their policies of cutting the public education funding and community college funding and so on, led to this major problem that all of us are suffering from. It is time to send people to Des Moines to fix this problem so that people of Iowa, because they deserve to live a nice life. So we need to send people who deserve to represent those people in Des Moines.
Okay. House File 718, I know that's caused a lot of chaos among our communities. I still like to get a newspaper, so I get the Hawkeye, I get the Beacon, and, you know, it's kind of a shell game. You know, they cut property taxes, you know, the communities that reduced income. So now, you know, the city of Burlington is looking at franchise fees. You know, so we're kind of moving the money around. The city's got to have the dollars to provide the services, and people will pay additional taxes. The people of Burlington just approved a tax to pay for the school district, a new performing arts auditorium. In Henry County, they passed a levy to have emergency management service. So, you know, people are willing to pay, but they want the services too. So, I mean, it takes people working together. You know, the one thing I learned in my career, you know, when you're in management, you're going to work with the union. When both of you figure the solutions out, it's a better workforce. Same thing at the Capitol Theater. You know, we all have our different expertise, but we work together to find solutions. So, you know, we've got to protect our libraries. We have to, you know, I know the director here, there's real concern about reduction in hours and people. Thank you.
Yep. We'll go ahead and do our closing statements. Mark, we'll start with you, but I do have a question to go along with that. What would your top legislative priority be should you get elected to represent us in this legislature?
Well, I'll mention a few things. The hands-free bill I've worked 5 years on, I would like to get that done. That's just so when you're driving a car, you're being safe because there's distracted drivers out there. I got land redevelopment trust that I've worked out with Mike Norris from Burlington, which kind of takes so you pool land together to develop it. Those are really important. Additional housing type things are really important. I think insurance has gotten out of hand. People are paying it's gone up so much, 70% sometimes, so that's something we need to address. So those are just a few things really quick. I did want to mention, too, that Governor Branstad was brought up here. Governor Branstad has endorsed my campaign. That was nice of him to do that. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. I come to the table with the knowledge and experience necessary to do this job, knowledge and experience of what it's like to own a business and to feel the burdens of unnecessary legislation and mandates on day-to-day operations. Also of what it's like to be a spokesman for all Iowans. Having served 2 terms in the Iowa House of Representatives and 2 terms in the state Senate, I have listened to constituents, initiated and run numerous bills on the floor of both the House and the Senate, and have advocated for many important issues. With that being said, I have also stood up against my party, the majority, if I know that a piece of legislation would not be good for Iowans. I am not afraid to do the right thing, and I've been recognized numerous times, both publicly and privately, for doing just that. I will continue to work hard for what's best for all Iowans, and I am asking for your vote on November 5th.
John?
Yeah, do you want me to answer that other
Yes,
question?
same question. Same question. I can repeat it if you
Yeah,
need.
please.
Absolutely. What would your top legislative priority be should you get elected to represent us in this legislature?
And before my statement or ending statement, let me answer this very quick. As an educator, public education is 100% for me. Public money, tax money, must be just for public education. There is no way I will waver on that, and there is no way I will give a penny of that to voucher. This is the problem that we're facing in the state of Iowa. There's no way I will go to Des Moines and will not fight to, again, reenact the AEA. I mean, the attack on the EAA is unheard of. That happened in the past session. So this is a quick answer. Obviously, the women's reproductive right will be a top issue for me. Again, businesses, encouraging businesses to invest and reinvest in their employee and the young generation through economic development projects and so on will be very important for me too. But here is my final statement. The choice is clear. On November 5th or before, vote for John Dabeet if you support public education, if you support women's reproductive right, if you support working families, if you support innovation in the businesses in the state of Iowa, if you want a common sense solution to our problems, vote for John Dabeet. If you want to see people over politics in Des Moines, vote for John Dabeet. My values are very simple. One is freedom, two is opportunities, and three is accountability. So I will end by saying thank you again for hosting this forum, and I will be honored to be your voice in Des Moines. So please vote for John Dabeet on November 5th or before.
Jeff?
You know, the issues that I'm focused on, and the reason I really got into this race is education. I graduated from a small school in a small city, and it prepared me for a successful life. I am really concerned with the voucher system. The schools in District 95 are rural communities with small schools. You lose your school district, you lose your identity. And I've seen what happens when that occurs. So I think, you lose 30 to 50 students in a rural school, that district's in trouble. It may continue, but it's a changed district. And so I firmly believe as money comes into education through charter schools, through faith-based education, our rural schools are going to suffer. AEA lost 48. They had 48 resignations. Great Prairie, AEA. They've been able to replace 21 of those. So they're still 28 short. Those professionals at AEA are what help our students in our rural school districts. So my number one issue is that. We've got to secure our rural schools in District 95. A lot of other issues, and there's plenty to do in Des Moines. But it's working. Bottom line, schools. Why am I doing this? I'm running a grassroots campaign. I'm not going to outspend Taylor. He's going to have more signs. I got into this because I felt, one, people deserve a choice. And I did not want people to go to the ballot box and have a choice of one. So, I'm just asking people to take a look at me. Promise you I will not be a career politician. My focus will be to do the job, go to Des Moines, work hard, chop wood, and get out. Thank you.
Taylor?
Well, thank you once again for the partnership for hosting this forum. It's very productive. I always appreciate communicating with your members and the members here in Southeast Iowa. It's important to hear directly from you guys what we need to be working on in Des Moines. 3 of the things I'll be working on in Des Moines next year. Number 1 is property taxes. We talked about it tonight and continues to be an issue. We continue to need to look at this next year. Next is child care. We need to continue to expand the number of child care slots, specifically in rural Iowa. And third is energy. That's not something that's on everybody's radar, but quite frankly, we're going to be getting hit with some pretty significant increases in the cost to our Alliant energy bills. And we have to continue to look at ways we can expand the natural gas access here in Southeast Iowa, because that is really what is hindering more economic growth. And I'm hearing that directly from the folks here in the chamber. Over the past 2 years, you don't have to ask me what I will do. I can tell you exactly what I've already done. I've cut income taxes by over $1 billion, delivered $100 million in property tax relief, increased pay for our teachers, increased funding for mental health, cracked down on illegal immigration, protected religious freedom, and actually looked at state government and said what efficiencies can be made, and we consolidated 37 state agencies down to 16. In Iowa, we have led with common sense, and if reelected, I will continue to do exactly that. Thanks for the Chamber for once again organizing the forum this evening.
Thank you. Again, I want to express appreciation to these 4 gentlemen up here that are willing to serve our citizen legislature. I would also like to thank the audience for your interest in this election process. Remember to vote for your favorite candidate on November 5th. Thank you.